So hi and welcome to another video, and probably the most anticipated video that a lot of you have been waiting for is the G Pro wireless and which skates, we've got all the skates here, are the best ones for this mouse. Now we've tested two versions of the G Pro wireless on stock feet. We've gone through Hyperglides, Corepad, Tigers, Hotline Masters, Hotline Competitive, Hotline Competition, and Lexip Ceramic feet. So we have gone through all of the feet that are available for the G Pro wireless as a standard fit here. We're going to show you without the ring and with the ring, the different frictions, and I'll use a comparison table as I do with all my statistics at the end to show you which ones are speed, which ones are control, or whether there's really any difference between them. So we've used a Logitech G640 mousepad because we did that at the start as the baseline mousepad. I've done it across other mouse pads that I have done, so check out my other videos. And you'll see different feet, things like the Viper, Final Mouse, and other ones I've done glide tests for using this force gauge meter, which tells us the force required in grams to push a mouse across a pad. We're using two G Pro wirelesses. We've got the 1824 that I had originally. We've got the statistics for that. And we were trying to see whether the skates have changed in performance on the 1900 series. And my original thoughts were they have, but it's interesting to see what the results are. We've got a caliper here to measure the thickness to see if you get any LOD issues when using the skates. So I'm going to go through a quick table here just to show you the differences in the feet. And then I'm going to show you a comparison chart, which we've used a force gauge meter, and I'm going to show the average glide performance of each set of skates. If you want to understand that a little bit more detail of how to take those measurements, there's a link in the description for how I do that. So one of the first questions people ask me is there a difference in the weight of the feet, and there isn't unless you're in ceramics, and they're about 0.5 gram, so overall 2 grams, which would be about 1 gram more than stock feet or Hyperglides or Corepads. They're all around 0.9 grams for the full set. Each ceramic foot is 0.5 grams, so depending on how many feet you put on it, you put 4 on it, you're looking at 2 grams in weight there. Not really noticeable, but people do ask. So the next thing is the thickness of these pads. So the stock feet are 0.7 millimeters thick, Hyperglides are 0.8 millimeters thick, Tigers 0.9 millimeters. Lexip Ceramics 1.3 millimeters, certainly thicker, Corepad 0.8 millimeters, Hotline Comp 0.7 millimeters, and Hotline Masters were 0.9 millimeters. Obviously these are only approximate. Using my caliper, there might be slight differences here because we're talking about millimeters. The only real one that stood out was the Lexip, which are quite significantly thicker. So when we talk about feet, we also talk about whether they're rounded on the edge, and the stock feet aren't. The Hyperglides are, the Tigers are rounded, the Lexip are rounded, Corepads are rounded, and the Hotlines are not rounded. So you might find they catch on some of the pads. I generally don't have this issue. It's normally a cloth pad issue that you get. If you've got a bit of like a funny weave that's maybe fraying a little bit, the feet might catch, but to me, I've had no issues using them on cloth pads. Then we look at what they're made of. Well, everything's made out of PTFE apart from the ceramics, and obviously they're made out of ceramic. That's the only difference there. And then talking about lift-off difference issues, all the feet, apart from the ceramics, have no issue with lift-off. I had no problems on different pads. I've used the M510, I've used the SteelSeries Plus, I've used the GSR from Zowie, we've used some of the other pads here. And the only one that I've had problems with is on the Lexip feet, and that was on a problem on the 640. It's also a problem on a hard Helios pad, and it really, probably for me, isn't what I would put on the G Pro wireless. The other problem with the Lexip feet is you're going to have to sand down the base of the mouse. You might get it a little bit closer, but even then I still had lift-off differences because there's like a little ridge on the G Pro wireless where the feet sit, and the ceramics won't fit in that. So for me, I would not recommend ceramics for this mouse just because there's too many problems with lift-off and having to sand the base. Avoid them would be my recommendation for the G Pro. The price differences here, well, I can get Hotlines, Tigers, and Corepads for around $5 or $6 US, depending where you're looking. Hyperglides, if you can find them, they're like hen's teeth for the G Pro wireless for about £11, $11. You cannot buy stock feet replacement for the G Pro wireless, so there's no chance of that. Even Logitech support generally don't respond. I've not been able to get any. So once you've killed them, you have to put some replacements on it, and you can't buy them, so there's no price for those. And the ceramics are £23, which is expensive. When we come to talking about wear here, most of them wear very evenly. You've got a harder pad, you're going to get some grit. It's going to chew up the feet, especially the PTFE ones. The ceramic ones are very hard wearing, and they will not wear down. But it's going to come down to your pad and how hard you're pushing down on the mouse, and whether you've got some grit there, where they're going to wear. On a general pad, you're going to get 6 months to a year out of them, I would say, generally. Now, a lot of people talk about breaking them in. I've done some videos on that. I'll put some links in the description on different pads. For me, the more you break them in, the slower they get. They don't generally get faster, and that's because while you're wearing them out. So to me, it makes sense. I've done a few tests on that. And yes, you are going to see some slowdowns. Do not expect them to get any quicker. So getting into the table here and comparing the feet as an average across this G640 mousepad. I mean, people could get different results here. This is all I've used, and this is my way of collecting the data. Let me know if you get any differences, but this is the way I've been able to show it. And hopefully this can help people pick their mice feet. You can see on the left, we've got speed. They're the quickest ones. And on the right, we've got control. But overall, there's only about 6 grams worth of pressure difference here. So I wouldn't say it's going to be significantly noticeable. I do find a lot of them, though, do feel a little bit sluggish on the forward motion here. But in the statistics, over the average here, they seem to be fairly similar. So the standard 1900 series here seem to be the quickest, which surprises me because they don't feel it. I actually originally thought they were slower, and they're not here. The statistics here are showing they're quicker. Then you've got Hyperglides, closely followed by Corepad. You've got Hyperglide without a ring, which was interesting to see. So people ask me whether they need to put the center ring on, and for me, I didn't really see much difference. It's about a gram. But again, that could be different depending on how much pressure you apply to the mouse. I did try putting some down, and I couldn't feel the sensor catching. You can see here the ceramic ones are near the control area where tigers generally sit. Tigers seem to be the slowest ones here if we're looking at this chart. But whether you're going to feel that on a real test is up to you really. It's going to come down to your pad more and real personal sensitivity to that kind of movement. If I was going to pick any there, I'm actually running Hyperglides on mine because that was the last ones that I tested. But I was going to pick any because the Hyperglides are very hard to get, and on the performance here, they're very, very similar to Corepads and Hotlines. I would probably go with Corepads just because I prefer the rounded edge over the Hotlines, and because they're significantly cheaper, about half the price of Hyperglides, as well as being a lot more available to get. That's my personal preference. To be fair, I don't think you're going to notice much of a difference in these, but that was what I would say to go for if you're unable to choose between which ones you want personally. So I hope you like this video. It's probably a little bit different how people are going to try and show these results. Hopefully give me some metrics to allow you to do that, and I'll put all the statistics and stuff in my website under beardedbob.com. Go and check them out if you want to have another review of these, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you again. Bye bye.